Well, we discussed the sins and overly critical errors of this movie, but how about we implant ourselves in the realm of reality and weigh our options of not dying against bleeding-eyed, literal snapbacked, and big-brain zombies, or infected? This time around, we're talking about the literal depiction of gamers who think lesser graphics makes their eyes bleed. One day, they are like a necromorph hive mind. The next, they are brain-dead slobs. Who needs food and water when gamers can survive anything? The zombies with the best work ethic in the biz. Ben Stein would be the one true cure and one true hero. Zombies with heightened selective hearing. Zombies that prefer group dates over one-on-one sessions. Not biting people with plot armor is tradition. This movie hits harder because it unintentionally timed up alongside quarantine, and the movie you will probably compare to Train to Busan feature-length film itself. This time around, we are telling you why you wouldn't survive #Alive's zombie apocalypse. With no origin point or patient zero, it's hard to tell exactly where this unknown and unnamed virus originated and how it spread out of control so rapidly. But considering the movie's semi-focus on social media and the movie's name itself, I'll be referring to it as the #virus for here on out, since it went viral, LOL, but to give some basis on what it is and where it may have come from, it's possible that it may have derived or at least mutated or been spliced with something called the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. Originating as a tick-borne virus and transmitting through biting just about any animal, its effects magnify in any host and will be easily spread through blood, bodily fluids, and even contaminated equipment. While bleeding is a very common symptom for this disease, there is also fevers, sores, jaundice, and severe changes in mood and sensory perception, a number of which is within the realm of this movie's zombie virus. It was discovered in 1944 and over time has been found in large portions of Africa and some of Europe, but only 2 cases have been recorded in Spain since 2016. While some modern medicines like ribavirin can be used to supportively combat this disease, there is no vaccine for humans, while it still retains a mortality rate between 9 to 50% in preceding outbreaks throughout history. In the recent year, a supposedly similar strain called bleeding eye fever has cropped up within Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Uganda, apparently as a more severe version of the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, being popularized as causing profuse bleeding from a victim's eyes and from their mouth and anus as well, with its mortality rate rising up to 60%. It is hypothesized by a lot of conspiracy theorists to be in the realm of Disease X, a placeholder name by the World Health Organization to describe a hypothetical, unknown pathogen that could cause a future epidemic, which ironically COVID-19 was a part of, but is not a similar disease to the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, so don't be making that comparison, but it's just what the World Health Organization uses as a name to just better prepare themselves for any sudden pandemics that come out of the blue. Rumors state that bleeding eye fever is primarily spread through villages near a Chinese natural gas project in the Somali region, and some locals believe hazardous chemical waste has poisoned their water supply, which, while chucked up to wild speculation and conspiracy and denied by the Chinese government, if it were true, could find its way to South Korea and other countries rather easily and be an easy determining factor into how its infection count rose to pandemic level proportions in a short span. Although the local water supply in the movie was free of any disease and only spread through bites from infected personnel, as is the standard issue method of transmission for generally any zombie-like outbreak, which I hate to be repetitive, but is another call to the ever-famous default of a rabies-like or rabies virus that may have taken a dip into this viral genetic pool, as newscasters say it affects the brain so heavily. Regardless, a majority of you aren't here for this virus's origin or genotype, and I'm not a biologist or virologist. I'll leave that to Roanoke. Regardless, even more, the main takeaway is that it's a deadly infection that spreads through a bite and alters the brain. Once an infected individual bites a healthy person, the victim in question will be asymptomatic for anywhere between a few seconds to a few minutes, and will eventually display extremely noticeable and horrific symptoms, like the aforementioned bleeding from the eyes and the body uncontrollably convulsing in a very sporadically stiff manner, possibly due to rapid rigor mortis setting in the body and tightening the joints, before completely changing the psyche of the individual to that of the stereotypical fast-moving infected type of zombie. However, as seen in the start of the movie, sometimes the turn time can be noticeably less noticeable? Yes, I just said that. It was repetitive. Make sure to point that out in the comments. It's good for the algorithm. The young girl seemingly fine until she is held by her mother, and then suddenly just starts convulsing, turning, and bites her mom in the span of just a few seconds, despite not showing many symptoms like the bleeding-eyed neighbor who had plenty of time to turn and give the main character enough time to fight back. Sharing a litany of similarities with Train to Busan's infected, the hashtag zombies are extremely hostile to any living things nearby, blindly rushing to the prey without any regard for their surroundings or self-preservation, in order to either outright slaughter an individual and consume their flesh, or more likely to infect them to add to their growing numbers. However, with the hashtag virus, while still rendering the host as a still mobile and rabid corpse, the infected's brain will retain some modicum of their previous humanity, but only to further their own hunting and spreader instincts. They are slightly intelligent enough to ignore certain sounds and not flock to them like a generic zombie would, as they disregarded Jun-Woo's erratic screaming and multiple nearby gunshots, creating a priority in their minds in order to not get distracted from their easiest source of prey. They went after the lady cop despite all the other noise that was going on. Also, to correct myself from my sins video, their vision, hearing, and smell are actually heavily heightened and not reduced, allowing them to easily pinpoint survivors nearby them, easily spotting them and making it increasingly difficult to evade and lose the hashtag zombies once a chase has begun. They will retain behavioral patterns, making them less animalistic than the infected of 28 Days Later, Left 4 Dead, or even Train to Busan, having the knowledge to open doors and windows without always resorting to breaking through them unless it's completely necessary to get to their victims. More importantly though, much like the zombies of George A. Romero's universe, they could also retain memories of their past careers and hobbies by mimicking their corresponding motions and behaviors, but to a more advanced degree than just what Romero's zombies did of just swinging hammers and just picking up tools. Examples including the firefighter infected being able to ascertain the purpose of a wire and climb it effectively to reach high places, a common practice for firefighters to learn and use in emergency situations. Similarly, infected police officers are shown to forcefully disarm a suicidal woman, knocking the firearm out of her hands in order to keep her hashtag alive and infect her. They seem to bear a pack mentality, and instead of just hoarding up like regular zombies, they do hoard up, but they actively work together and will drag victims with other infected to draw healthy survivors into hordes so they may all swarm them and make their chances of survival 0%. But they do not always devour a body when they get their hands on a survivor, and will even hold off from biting someone if they know large numbers of infected are nearby. They will make sure the infected of the area will see a healthy survivor and just basically swarm them. It's hard to tell when they will decide to fully consume the flesh of a victim though, as Jun-Woo's paralyzed neighbor is seen devouring the flesh of a fully dead body. But in the cases of the female officer and the random apartment woman, they become infected and are lost within the multiple numbers of infected in the hordes, only to be ignored by the rest of the infected when pursuing another healthy host, or the woman in the hallway that is slowly turning in front of a ton of other infected just to be pushed to the wayside, which does display how, despite these infected having cannibalistic tendencies, the hashtag zombies would much prefer to add to their numbers rather than ripping it apart and eating it, making for a much more formidable threat in the long term. The hashtag zombies do have a reasonable amount of durability, just as much, if not more, than a regular human being, being able to withstand numerous strikes to the head and body from blunt or bladed weapons, and even merciless beatdowns from other infected, as seen with the neighbor zombie who was brutally beat down by another infected. However, he was paralyzed from the hip down because of this assault, but the hashtag zombies really aren't able to handle falling from great heights. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. The typical good old-fashioned American way of zombie disposal can work, however, since one gunshot to a zombie from the police officer near the beginning seemed to dispatch one of the infected. Although, it is reasonable to see why they were not used often in hashtag alive, considering firearms are not a readily available commodity to the South Korean public. But even with a stockpiled array of weapons, fighting off a horde of these durable bastards will prove to be difficult and make your chances of survival very slim. Its spread and infected count was estimated to have reached around 50,000 in the metropolitan capital of Seoul in South Korea, with its high infection rate made possible due to the density of the population in this area because of compact spacing and living arrangements, which is a consistent part of a majority of the continent of Asia's everyday life, specifically in Japan, South Korea, China, and even India. If allowed to begin in a condensed populated area, it's easy to see it getting out of control as the infected are able to infect more and more people in a very short amount of time, and overwhelming the general public in just about any scenario. The only way I can see it not getting out of control is if it's like in a country town and there's not that many people, so the army or governments could easily quarantine and take it out. But that's probably not going to be the case with this disease. From them swarming the streets in the start, causing chaos amongst the living and the dead, infecting people, and giving them a brief trial period of continuing to live, just to turn into an infected over a short period of time to surprise and bite you or others, easily figuring out where a survivor may be even amidst the daunting maze of apartment complexes, either by hearing them from afar or spotting them from multiple stories below. They possess enough dexterity to dying light their way over vehicles, walls, obstacles, and more to pursue prey and easily take them down, as they themselves cannot get exhausted. They possess enough strength to push through barricaded doors and break through defenses. Their greatest threat to you and I's survival comes down to their coordination, intelligence, and desire to create more infected. The fact that they will go out of their way, drag you to tons of more infected intentionally just to add to their kill count, James A. Janisse style. Zombies that intentionally want broader numbers instead of just recklessly eating their prey at every given chance. They can, if they choose to, actively seek out survivors they have pinpointed and feel like they can reach to do so. More terrifyingly so is their adaptability to utilize whatever they prominently knew while they were hashtag alive. The film tends to only bring up that zombies retain skills from their careers, but that doesn't necessarily restrict them to their former career paths. A lot of people have passions that are outside their given jobs. Imagine an army veteran, or hell, just a redneck with a love for firearms turning into the hashtag zombies. Would this mean they would be able to use guns and firearms semi-effectively to incapacitate survivors? We saw Bub in the 1985 film Day of the Dead learn to pick up a pistol and use it. And this is the universe where hashtag alive most likely got its inspiration of zombies retaining memories of their past lives. I mean, we could also see someone who goes rock climbing frequently, like Hidden Xperia, use these physical feats to their advantage to ascend tall surfaces and maybe even the sides of buildings to close the gap on you and eat you alive. Or, infect you. Or quite possibly, even Maybe weebs proficient in swordplay, being able to cut you down where you stand? Or maybe someone skilled in martial arts or ninja ways? Or a John Wick-like person that can beat you in Fortnite? No, God! I mean, dodge a bunch of melee swings and jump your ass like it's nothing? Or pizza guys that can deliver the pain? Or a former actor pretending to be dead, to not only catch survivors off guard as they walk by their body, but to also have a good reason, an actual valid reason for a zombie to actually pretend to be dead. But that's not even the scariest one though, because you got people that are on social media all the time turning into zombies and then getting on Twitter, and then they get you banned or removed with hashtags, so you can't make these SOS posts like at the end of the movie to get yourself saved. And you, because of these infected, will be hashtag dead. Ha, see, I did a little 180 there.
Blocked and reported.
You know what? While you're here, leave a comment in the comment section or my Twitter, wow_such_gaming, and let me know your best idea for a zombie that's using their previous jobs and hobbies to their advantage. I'd love to see the ideas you guys come up with, and leave some meme ideas in there too. Love to see it, let me know. Most hashtag zombies seem to not decay further after the first few days of the infection, and seem to be in a state of suspended rigor mortis. While slightly limited in their joint movement, their bodies are still allowed to move, hunt, and devour without an actual need for food and water. Their bodies practically dead, and, from what I assume, needing to of course destroy the brain or remove the head. Blood loss doesn't seem to have an effect, as they show excruciating amounts of protruding body ragu, and can take a beating enough to get paralyzed and still keep going on forward. Due to all of these factors, their longevity can extend at least well into a month and beyond. But eventually will have to start to rot and decay to the point of being immobilized and staggering the threat more and more as time progresses. But that requires being able to quarantine yourself over time and somehow surviving on no food, water, and your hair not growing over a month? Oh no, that's just Jin Woo. That's just the main character. They're not actual people. No. You still need to barricade yourself and attempt to wait for armed rescue and live off any available supplies you have, all while zombies are scouting you out and attempting to break down your front door, or for other survivors to stumble in to either try and survive with you, try to kill you, already be infected and turned in your safe space, or the long-term mental strain of a zombie apocalypse and quarantining, leading to these other survivors becoming insane or reveling in anarchy and loving the lawlessness and just wanting to kill you. It will take a lot of determination, will to live, strength to fight back, the wit to outsmart somewhat intelligent and numerous hashtaggers, have the tools to survive, and more to withstand it all. And for a majority of us, that ain't in the hashtags. Well, that's our helicopter into the sunset for this video. Did you enjoy this double dip into the hashtag alive film? What did I get wrong or miss out? Be sure to berate me in the comments for anything I got incorrect. If you enjoyed this, feel free to like and subscribe and ring that bell. If you want to support the channel financially, you don't have to. The likes and views are all we really need. But if you are inclined, you can support in a number of ways, from being a big boy donator to a Patreon patron, a channel member, or just donating during previous live streams. If you want more Why You Wouldn't Survive on zombie films and games, I've got plenty from the past you can check out in my Why You Wouldn't Survive playlist that you can click right above. With all that said and done, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hashtag alive, and most importantly, stay wow.